What's happening, YouTube? It's homie SDot coming back to you with another video, and today is a special video for all you Octone lovers. I have a new Octone deck profile coming for you, updated in Wave 5 Type Masters Attack. As you can see, we have one new character that we're sporting from the new set, and I want to say disclaimer, I have 3 different builds of this on Fortress Maximus, so I'm going to put the link to the description for this version of the deck list down in the comment section, not in the comment section, but in the description, so definitely check that out along with all my other decks. And then I also have a more blue slanted, so a blue-black version of Octone, and then also an orange-black version of Octone. But the third version I'm going to show you guys today is something I had an epiphany about a couple of days ago, is in just about entirely black icon version. So heavier black. There still are some other colors in there, but you'll see as we get to the cards. But they also, a lot of them are sporting, you know, orange black or blue black. And this is sincerely like the epitome of Pierce. And we're using a lot of the mercenary cards, and I think this is definitely, obviously, you know, this deck was always strong against blue decks. This just gets amplified. And when in terms of talking about its viability against aggressive decks, that's where I potentially will have an issue. This deck acts as an aggressive deck, but it acts as an aggressive deck with getting in with guaranteed damage, getting in for all ranges of Pierce type of numbers. Despite even your you know, orange deck's 2 defense. Like if I had 7 attack, Pierce 7 with Fangry, I'm getting in for Pierce 7, not just 7 attack as an orange deck, 7 like Pierce 3 with an orange deck, and then only getting in for 5. I'll be getting in for that full 7. So little things like that. The direct damage is very high. Obviously, anytime you see an Octone deck, Octone's obviously going to be insanely high in direct damage. And then of course we have Night Racer here, who's sporting out our last 5 stars in the deck. Also a new character from Wave 5 Type Masters Attack, who's also ranged. And speaking of her being ranged, let's just finish her out. So she's 3 attack, 11 health, 2 defense in this mode. Very, very good SRT from the set. One of the best from the SRTs from the set. Has 5 stars, and it pretty much replaces Flame War. So if anybody new to the channel is not familiar with this card, and you've seen Flame War prior to this, realize that Night Racer is probably superior in a lot of different ways. Being that she has range tag, she has 1 more defense, she has 1 more health, and she doesn't have to flip. In her text here, when you have a secret action set, you give all your characters tough 1. So not as quite as good as Flame War in terms of giving tough 1 permanently, but I think the pros outweigh the cons and why she's so good. And then in her alt mode, you're also able to flip her, and she has 4 attacks, so she loses a defense and gains an attack at 4-1. And while you have a secret action set, she has, or all of your characters have bold 1. So that's actually a tiny bit relevant based off of secret actions that you'll see me playing in the deck. I rarely will do it, but there are some points where I will do it just to get the extra bold. And being the deck is all black, I can get in for some, you know, decent numbers. Even if I just get in for 4 Pierce 4, it's like hitting for the bigger they are without actually playing the bigger they are every turn. And then next up we have Fangry. So Fangry is known for obviously people gravitating to his bold. He has bold as long as you're attacking a character that has more stars than him. So he's 6 stars initially, but he has to have a head. Of course, a body can't live without a head. And he has the Kreb head. So the Kreb head is 1 star, and it gives +2 attack. Kreb is 2 attack, 2 health, and 0 defense, and he's a melee character. Now, so Fangry's sitting here with 13 health total, 4 attack, and 2 defense. And when he attacks a character that has more stars than him, he has bold 2. Now, in his alt mode, if he defends against a character that has less stars than him, he gets tough 2. Now, it'll be a 99.9% chance that I'll ever flip Fangry to this mode, because, now granted, when you look at his effect, if you want to play him in a blue deck, maybe like with Ominous or something like that, I can see you potentially flipping to that other mode, because you'll be able to get that tough 2 out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but against, depending on how the sequences go against other characters, you know, anything with 9 or 8 stars or less, you'll be able to get that tough 2 against, and it's free. And he also has 2 defense, so similar to like Sky Shadow Tank, this I could potentially see being relevant, but you'll have to build to it. I don't think you could play a 7-star head. I think you'd have to play a 3 or 4-star head, and then even then, I don't know what other characters you'd be playing with, but that's the idea behind it. But for this deck specifically, we're going to be playing Fangry just for his bot mode side. A lot of times you're going to send him in on turn 1. Him being 7 is one of the most popular character stars or played stars in the game, but you're usually able to get into your opponent's best character. Now, if they're playing a 4 or 5 wide deck, obviously not going to be able to get in for the bold 2, but it is what it is at that point. Still a very sturdy character and very solid. And then last but not least, of course, we have the star of the deck, Octone. This guy is crazy. He's a superstar. Yeah, he is a superstar. He's a super rare triple changer. And in his alt mode 1, where he'll start at, he has 5 attacks, 17 health, and 2 defense. And when you flip to this mode, you may have your opponent deal 1 damage to one of their Autobots. And whenever he's attacking an Autobot, he also gets +3 attack, which is crazy. So he's 8 built in on his own. So he's technically at 8, 17, 2, because you're always going to want to try to play this effect or play this attack to obviously whatever bot you're going to be attacking that turn. And then in his alt mode 2, he's very similar. Well, a little bit different. Let's talk about his alt mode 1 here for a little bit more. Also in his alt mode, he is a truck and he's melee. So not super relevant, but it is relevant for certain cards you play in the deck. So you'll have to be careful with certain upgrades and things you play in the deck when you play those cards. And then in his alt mode 2, he is a plane and ranged. So he changed up the range, you know, the best trait in the game. And he's still at 5, 17, 2. And it's just the opposite of the Autobot side. So you have your opponent deal 1 damage to one of their Decepticons. They get to choose, of course, still. And whenever he attacks a Decepticon, he has +3 attack. So very versatile, very, especially with the ruling that came about a month ago that heads on a Decepticon head on an Autobot makes him also a Decepticon and vice versa. He's able to actually get in with his flip effect and be able to kind of burn. If your opponent's playing Perceptor with Grax, he'll always, you know, potentially be able to take damage. Of course, they'll probably be playing other characters that'll take damage, but there's always that relevance. Now, one thing you want to make sure you pay attention to when playing this character is if your opponent has a hollow matter projector or a defensive driving on one of their bots, be careful about flipping your Octone at that time until you get rid of that upgrade, because defensive driving lets the character take any damage it would take. It takes that -1. So since your opponent gets to choose, they can choose the character that has the defensive driving, and then they would take the 1, but then -1 they would take nothing. And then same thing with Hollow Matter Projector, but they would take literally nothing again. So they can't even take non-attack damage. There's a slight little ruling I was talking to someone about yesterday, McCoy. Shout out to McCoy, one of from the Philippine group, about if the character that has Hollow Matter Projector, if it can't take non-attack damage, can they even target it to take non-attack damage and like let it fizzle? I think the answer is yes, but I feel like there's potential where it might be like, since it can't take non-attack damage, you have to put the damage on somebody that does. But it's not a super big deal. Like I said, I think it's the first one, but it is what it is. So just make sure you be careful with that when flipping Octone. And then last but not least, in his bot mode, he is a 6, so he gains 1 attack, but technically loses out on 2 attack because he's not attacking a Autobot or Decepticon. But he still has a 2 defense, and he's ranged here. And when this does enough damage, attack damage to KO an enemy, you use this character's bounty ability. And his bounty ability is to do 2 damage to an enemy. So doing 2 damage is like a plasma burst effect, and it's very strong. You get to points in the mid to late game where you send him out, and you can easily kill another character outside of combat. You guys know how much I vouch for direct damage. Direct damage is one of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of this game. And yeah, he's just very versatile, and there are a couple cards in the deck to help amplify and even trigger his effect even when he's not killing the character. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But overall, very solid character. Shout out to Wads. Wads gave me this sleeve. If you think it's not in the sleeve, it actually is. You see this kind of, yep, it's like a double. The sleeve opens up from the long side instead of from the top, like for the battle cards. And there's 2 of them, so I put 1 on each side, and I'm able to still fold him as so and be able to transform, because he obviously transforms a lot. So got to be very careful with it, especially being an SRT, and one of the most expensive SRTs in the game, actually. But yeah, so this deck is sporting 41 health on top of that, so it's an aggressive deck, but on a different axis. It's an aggressive deck in terms of getting in for guaranteed damage. And let's jump right to the battle deck and let's talk more about it. Alright guys, so one thing I gotta say about this deck, we got 23 actions and 17 upgrades. Now, one thing I have to say that's very unique about this deck is this deck plays 9 double black cards, and it plays 0 double blues and 0 double oranges. And the reason why is because we're working on the axis of the black icon as much as possible. It's something that I never thought I would do, but even recently, the first card I'm gonna show you guys was 3-piece to Tyranny, just to randomly potentially get it off with Fangry. But I realized that mixing the deck with I think blue-black will probably be better than orange-black, because the amount of black cards I wanted to play with the deck, the orange really didn't help as much as it should have. Even cards like Grenade Launcher I actually cut from this deck as well. Yeah, you heard it right. I'm not playing Grenade Launcher. This deck is sincerely all black. There's a card that I actually can swap out for Grenade Launcher, but you know what? We'll talk about it when we get there. Without further ado, let's jump into the deck list. First off, we have the Burn Suite. We have the card that I said I took off for Peace Through Tyranny. We have 3 Magnetic Dysfunction Ray. For our next bit of burn cards, we have 3 Camion Crash. And then for our 9 total burn cards in terms of well, yeah, these burn cards, we have 3 Scouting Mission. So, of course, Magnetic Dysfunction Ray, card's insane. None of my characters are affected more than once, taking 1 damage from, the Magnetic Ray. And then any opponent playing Autobots definitely get taking 1 damage and then another damage. So that just amplifies the direct damage for this deck. Hollow Matter Projector obviously is a good card against this deck, and I do have some tools in here to get rid of it. Next up, we have Camion Crash, one of the best cards in the game. If you guys don't know by now, One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall is still my #1 favorite card in the game, and always will be. came in crashes like next best. Pretty much like deal 1 damage to one of your characters and 2 damage to an enemy, so you actually get more of a benefit. This card is technically kind of better than One Shot Stand because it has an icon and you don't take as much damage as your opponent. And then yeah, cards is very solid, and it's only a common, so one of the best commons period in the game, and definitely, you know, in the set and definitely in the game. Very, very solid card. Again, killing characters outside of combat is very solid. It's an Energon Axe enabler. Excuse me, all 9 of these cards are Energon Axe enablers, so something to definitely pay attention to. And then we have Scouting Mission here, which is one of my favorite cards to play. It feels good to play this card and you know, deal 1 damage to one of your characters and then draw 2 cards and trigger your Energon Axe. So you know, I've played a game where it is just 1 game, but it felt so good to Scouting Mission, deal 1 damage to Fangry that had no damage on it, draw 2 cards, and the second card I drew was an Energon Axe, and I put the axe on the Fangry. Felt so good. So definitely a very solid suite of cards. You can even use the Scouting Mission, keep in mind, so you deal 1 damage to a character on the battlefield, and its owner draws 2 cards. So there are those times in the mid to late game where your opponent has that character that has 1 damage left on it, and of course you never want to waste attacking to that character. Or, you know, Sky Shadow has 9 on it. You can kill the Sky Shadow outside of battle. Yes, they get to draw 2 cards, but killing characters is the name of the game. That's how you win a game. So definitely very solid overall. Next up, we're going to talk about our Mercenary Suite, and our Mercenary Suite is another 9 cards, and we're going to talk about 3 Opportune Offensive, 3 Contract Contingency, and 3 Dual Wield. I have not necessarily a series, but a video I want to make in terms of deck building and how I approach deck building, and some of my sincere ways that I go about when I build decks. And one thing that I go about when I build decks is at least having 6 attack boosting cards. So whether that's 3 bigger they are, 3 leap in the battle, which has been like stock for blue decks since day 1. Not all blue decks are playing that in that capacity these days, because of course as we get new cards, you're not able to just play 3 and 3 freely like you were before, because we have more options. But yeah, having at least 6 battle pumps are, I think, very vital for any deck, along with well, I'll save that for the deck building video when I talk about it in sections. So to keep on that trend of having at least 6 battle pumps in my deck, we have 3 Opportune Offensive and 3 Contract Contingency. Now, Contract Contingency can be used on all 3 of your characters, all 4 of your characters, including Kreb. And your Opportune Offensive can be used on 3 of your characters, including Kreb. So Fangry, Night Racer, and Kreb are able to use Opportune Offensive. And what this card does is play this card only if you had a Mercenary on your team, so on your starting team. So even if your Octone were to be KO'd, you can still play this card, because similar to like the Insecticon Swarm, you flip 1 card off top of your deck for each Insecticon you started the game off with. So even if you have 1 Insecticon left, you'll still flip 4 because you started with 4 on the team. So this card gives you +3 attack, or gives one of your it specifically has to give one of your Decepticons +3 attack, Pierce 3. So +3 Pierce 3 is very solid, very powerful with another weapon with a weapon I'm going to show you guys later on, and it's a blue-black icon. So playing just this one, I can play Opportune Repairs, but it doesn't do anything because I'm not playing the Autobot. But very, very powerful card. It's the bigger they are from my deck, and a very solid card. Next up, we have Contract Contingency. Contract Contingency simply gives +2 to a character to the end of the turn. So again, any of your 4 characters can use it. But furthermore, if you give this to Octone while he's in bot mode, his bounty mode, you are able to, if you don't kill a character, if you do at least 4 damage and don't kill the character that you're attacking with Octone, you can trigger a bounty ability from one of your cards. So choose the chosen character's bounty ability. So you still get the card acts as a +2 attack and a plasma burst. That's actually insane. So you make Octone 8 attack, and then you make 6 + a 2, and then give him a weapon. Let's say you give him a fusion board that makes him 11 attack. So he's 11 Pierce 3, and then if I don't kill the character, if I'm getting just a big chunk of damage on a Perceptor that has 17 health with the Grax head, then I'll get that chunk of damage. I'm definitely gonna do at least 4, and then I'm going to deal another 2 damage to him or to another character. So being able to be a plasma burst as well as a steady shot in a sense is very powerful. Now speaking of steady shot, it's going to be between this card and steady shot if I play whichever. I'm not heavily slanted on the blue-black, so that's why this card is definitely in. And plus, it's just a generic non-star double-black icon as well as dual wield. So just flipping this card with Night Racer along with another black will give Night Racer 3 Pierce 3 and at least be able to get in for full value of damage. Instead, there are a lot of times against orange decks where they'll have a character with 2 defense, and Night Racer a lot of times in like one of my normal blue decks will attack for her 3, and it'd be like 3 Pierce 1. Okay, the character's still only going to take 1. But now with cards like these and all the black, all of the plethora of black icons we have, you're able to get in for like 3 Pierce 3, sometimes 4 Pierce 4, and have those bigger they are or opportune offensive-ish turns every turn. So very strong. Next up, we have a Dual Wield, one of the strongest cards in the deck. This card's insane. Now, you give any character, you can choose one of your characters on the battlefield, and it has an extra weapon slot for the turn. There's rarely a time where I will put this on Night Racer or Kreb or Fangry to give them an extra weapon slot, because when you play this and you're targeting a mercenary, you can play one of your weapons from your scrap pile. So being able to toolbox one of your weapons from your scrap pile is insane. Any card that you want to, you can get back a card that will fall off anyway, like Fusion Borer or Grenade Launcher. You can get a weapon to stick, you know, any of your weapons that you need to stick on him because he doesn't have a weapon. This card literally pretty much is an upgrade. Very powerful card. Again, one of my favorite cards in the deck. And next up, my literal favorite card in the deck is the card that, I mean, if at least if I can see at least once per game, is Concealing Contrails. Concealing Contrails is one of the new cards out of Wave 5 type Masters Attack. One of my goals when building decks after the first month or two of playing Sky Shadow, etc., you know, exclusively, I wanted to look at other cards that I didn't give enough love to, that I still thought, oh, hey, this card seems like it's good, and, you know, I wanted to find a place for it. So now is that time. I can play this card fully in this deck. What's really cool is with Night Racer, you can set this card and trigger Night Racer's Tough 1, and since you're playing so many black icon cards, you have the, you know, you have your blue blacks, you have your double blacks. Any of your blue blacks become double blues, any of your, essentially double blues, and any of your double blacks become double blues as well. What I mean by that is this card, when you reveal it, the character that's defending gets +1 defense for every black card revealed on defense. So very strong. Like I said, when you flip this also with Night Racer, you get that additional tough, and I love that interaction with the deck. Now, it is a double black icon itself, and if you flip one of these cards off the top of your deck during defending while you have a Concealing Contrails for your secret action that's flipped, you will also still get the extra additional +1 defense. The only time that this plain icon sincerely matters and adds value to you is when you're Octone in his alt mode 2 attacks. This is relevant actually. So he's playing in range in his alt mode 2. So if he happens to attack in this mode and you flip this card, you'll actually get Pierce 2 from this one card. Otherwise, Fangry and Night Racer and Kreb will only get the Pierce 1, but definitely another very solid card in the deck. And next up, last but not least, are our 2 greens. We need some green actions to be able to swap out cards in our deck. Speaking of green actions, now one big reason why I love the green icon is because it lets you get those dead handheld blasters or improvised shields out of your hand. But I gotta honestly say, there's no card in my hand that I never want to draw. And that's one of my other biggest favorite parts about this deck, is there's no dead hand you can draw. You can draw like multiples of a card and may not be good in a certain matchup, or you just want to see another card, but there's no drawing Peace through Tyranny or improvised shield or handheld blaster or security checkpoints when you don't want to see them, which I think is very valuable about this deck. All the doubles in this deck that supplement for, you know, the double oranges, blues, etc., are cards you want to draw. I definitely want to see Dual Wield. I don't mind seeing Contract Contingency. You know, the one thing, by the way, about Contract Contingency is sometimes it's tough to want to be able to play this when Octone attacks, because a lot of times you want to be able to attack with Octone in his alt mode 1 or 2, but there are some scenarios where you will just, I mean, worst case scenario, you can just give it to one of your other characters just as a punk for the turn to get in for potentially more damage. But back to the greens in this deck. Like I said, I'm very happy that I don't have to. I think one of the big pros of this deck is there's no dead hand to draw and be like, oh man, I can't stand top that. I top that improvised shield or handheld blaster like it's my day job. It's ridiculous. But in this deck, with one of the cons I could say is, besides the unknown against aggro decks, which I think I'm gonna have a tough time against aggro, but we'll see, is the fact that you'll have a tougher time of deciding what cards you want to trade out of your hand for green icons, again, because you don't have that easy, okay, I'll just get rid of this improvised shield, or I'll just get rid of this handheld blaster for one of these greens. But anyway, we have one disassemble and one counter espionage. Counter espionage is on color, and of course it's a green, like I said, to have some actions to potentially play. If you're heavy, if you're upgrade flooded, you can get rid of one of those upgrades for an action to be able to play. But this card, being able to name an action and then scrap all enemy secret actions that they have set and in their hand, or any actions amount in total, is very strong. Now I gotta also say, one very strong part about this deck is it's not affected by, it's barely affected by In Hostilities. In Hostilities doesn't even really help your opponent either playing the blue deck, because even though they're oranges that they flip turn into blue, this deck is like literally like 39 black cards, so just about everything is pierced. Now they will stop the magnetic dysfunction ray, but again, I'll still get the pierce from the mag ray, so I really don't care. So In Hostilities is actually very weak against this deck, but on the contrary, I gotta say Stable Cover is probably very solid against this deck as well, or on the contrary. So with that being said, you can get rid of that Stable Cover with this card. So if you see your opponent playing a card like Stable Cover, you definitely can just get rid of it. You can get rid of Hold the Line, or not necessarily Hold the Line, it's not that good, but whatever. You know, Sabotage Armaments, you definitely want to get rid of Sabotage Armaments with this card. Those are some of the big cards you call. You might call Take Cover. You might want to play this and call Take Cover before you flip your Octone, if you saw your opponent's Perceptor grab that off of its flips, things like that. And the next up we have Disassemble. This card is on color, so it's on color in the theme that we're trying to do, and it's very important to be able to get rid of an opponent's weapon or armor, and you can get rid of any weapon or armor, but the controller draws a card. But what's important about this is to get rid of Hollow Matter Projector. Hollow Matter Projectors, or if your opponent's playing Sturdy Armor and you have a chance to get rid of it, is very solid. So being able to get rid of Hollow Matter and then again flip Octone or do whatever to be able to, you know, further progress your burn that you're going to inevitably do is very solid. This will round out the last bit of actions in the deck, rounding out the 23 cards. Like I said, only 2 green actions in the deck, but these cards are very solid and very valuable to the deck's core. Next up for the weapons, we have the card that I replaced Grenade Launcher with. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I did. Again, this was an epiphany thing when I wanted to build the entire deck as a black icon deck in RR Disruptive Blade. I've been looking to try to play this card in the deck for the longest time, and I think with the Mercenaries, this card has a very strong fit. Whenever you flip a black icon card when the character that's upgraded with this attacks, you will be able to keep this card. If you don't flip a black icon, you have to scrap this card. Again, there are 39 black icon cards in the deck. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is that I may not flip a black icon card on attack, but I have a feeling that almost every attack I'll be flipping a black icon, so I'll be able to keep the RR Disruptive Blade. So this is one of those cards you can keep with dual wield on Octone, or you can play on any of your other characters and make them a formidable attack. Having the Grenade Launcher, yes, it's a +4, but the +4 doesn't get amplified into a higher attack in the orange-black version I had. So again, I do have 3 different versions, and I have an orange-black version on there, but the oranges are very low. It's like 23 or 24 oranges, and you may get like 1 or 2 oranges out of it. That's not as good as, you know, a pure orange, heavy orange-black deck, or a heavy orange deck that has the Grenade Launcher plus like a whole bunch of oranges they flip off of their, you know, attack flip. So RR Disruptive Blade is very fitting with its icon and its attack, and then obviously its card text. The card is very fitting for what it does in terms of synergy with the deck. Next weapon we have coming up in the deck is Fusion Bore. I guess you could technically say Fusion Bore is the replacement for Grenade Launcher, because this card also falls off after attacking with the character, but it gives the character +3 attack and Pierce 3. So +3 Pierce 3 in conjunction with a card like Opportune Offensive is insane. So that's +6 Pierce 6 guaranteed, unless you run into a stable cover. But +6 Pierce 6, and then your attack flips, you can potentially, well, I guess with Fangry you can probably get Pierce 7, so that's one of the easy ways to get it, because there aren't that many orange icons in the deck, so the orange won't help you scale up as much, which also I gotta say is a potential problem with this deck. But at the same time, we're getting in for guaranteed damage, so a lot of time we're trying to get in for whatever our base attack is. We're trying to match that with Pierce, and that's still a good chunk of damage. 6 Pierce 6 is still very strong. Putting this on Octone is not, I won't say as good in terms of the Pierce, but obviously it's still a good card to have that +3 Pierce 3 and guarantee at least you're getting in 3 damage. You can kind of see this card as kind of like that range of one shot stand, one shot fall, where sometimes you'd be like, man, this character has 3 health left and I need to get to it. You can easily just dual wield a Fusion Board back and guarantee killing that character. And that's also one thing that I noticed. So even when I lose the extra 2 attack from attacking in alt mode 1 or 2 with Octone, if I put him in bot mode and have him attack with 9 Pierce 3, again, he loses out on being able to potentially be 11, but you'll get that 3 Pierce 3 on that character that you need to definitely kill and then trigger the bounty ability. So something small there. But 3 Fusion Board, one of the definite best cards in the set. And then next up we have 3 Sturdy Javelin. Fits very well in this deck. We have 2 range characters that can throw this card. Of course, you can also bring this back with dual wield. You can bring any weapon back with dual wield, but this is one of the stronger cards definitely bring back with it, because you can I've done plays where I pop the character outside of battle with the Javelin, attack the character with the Octone, killed another character, and then does another 2 damage with the Octone's bounty ability. So very strong cards. A white icon to help facilitate flipping more black icons in your deck. Fangry can wear this as well, get the +2 attack. Sometimes that's relevant to give him that +2. And if he's attacking up with that bold 2, he can potentially easily hit at least like Pierce 4 through 6, and that's definitely very nice. And then Kreb can also hold this as well. Not as relevant when you get down to Kreb, but it is relevant to, because you can play the card on him. And next up we have 2 Energon Axe and 1 a Scoundrel's Blaster. So again, this deck is not heavy on blue icons, but I'm playing some of the more stronger blue icons in the game. I think Scoundrel's Blaster is still a very strong card. It's a green icon, green-blue, and it gives you access to be able to get a guaranteed weapon on your Night Racer or your Kreb or Fangry. Now, also, it gives an additional Pierce 2 against an Autobot character, so against, characters like Chrome Dome or Perceptor or whatever else, when you do attack those characters, you'll have a free Pierce 2 already built in, plus your additional black icons. And then we have Energon Axe. I mentioned Energon Axe earlier, how it's an enabler. It's enabled easily by your 9 burn cards, your Mag Rays, your scouting missions and your Camion crashes. And this card is easily picked up from your dual wield as well, and then it'll stick as well. A very strong card. It's always a feel good to be able to nowadays damage your character a lot easier than before, and then equip this Energon Axe. And this also gives +3 and it gives Pierce 2 attack, which is definitely insane, especially against blue decks. So you don't have a problem against blue decks. Again, I'm just worried about this deck versus aggro. It's like we're both kind of like aggro, but we work on different axes. We're both getting in for guaranteed damage somehow, some way. They are with their orange, I am with the black icons, but we'll see how that actually goes in the end. And next up for our weapons, we have 1 increased durability, 1 bashing shield, and 1 hollow matter projector. Increased durability is a split between one of the utilities in here that also give health. Giving +4 to my Octone makes him 21, so it makes him like Galaxy Prime at stock or at base health. Then we got a bashing, or any of your characters. You can even give this to Fangry to ensure. I mean, he's at 13 with the Crab head already. You can give this to him, make him 17, and then if your opponent was trying to target him down for attacks, so he couldn't stand back up, and they could kill the Battle Master and kind of lock you out of standing back up with all of your characters just yet, because the Crab pops out, you can actually potentially put your opponent out of range, even if it's just simple as direct damage. Put your opponent out of range of being able to kill the Fangry, and then allow your Fangry to stand back up and actually potentially get another swing. And then next up we have Bashing Shield. Bashing Shield actually gets rid of this card that we have next to it, Hollow Matter Projector. That's one of the main reasons why this card is in the deck. Or if your opponent's also potentially playing increased durabilities, you really don't care about their, or I don't think you really want to get rid of your opponent's sturdy armors and reflex circuits and all that, because again, you're getting in for a lot of guaranteed damage with all the black icons in the deck. So this is the 4th orange, the 4th and last orange that we have in the deck. So every once in a while you'll randomly be able to scale up your attack and also potentially match with your Pierce to get in for a full attack / Pierce number to your opponent. And then last but not least, we do have 1 Hollow Matter Projector. This card is just about a one-of in just about every single deck that I play right now. It's good to... One of my favorite things about this card that I don't talk about enough is giving this to a character and forcing your opponent to attack into it. So there's times where your character will have 2 damage left on it, or it'll have 1 damage left on it, and you're scared that they're gonna horrible it out of combat, which is obviously easy. And a horrible can still out it by flipping to alt mode and just moving the damage. But when your opponent has Camion Crash or one-shot stand or arm hovercraft or any of those things, it doesn't matter, because unless they have Bashing Shield to out this, then play an action, or disassemble and then play their hovercraft or whatever, sturdy javelin, they have to attack that character still. One thing that was always very weak about, not weak, but just in general, was being vulnerable to having your character killed outside of battle after you already attacked with it. So that way, let's say they kill my Fangry outside of battle, then now my Kreb comes out untapped, and then they can potentially actually even either attack my Kreb or attack any of my other characters freely, because all of my characters are untapped. So it's something to definitely keep in mind. In general, cards is very good in the format. Direct damage has been amplified, obviously, so definitely a good pickup to put on any of your characters to for the right situation. Last but not least, we have our 2 upgrades, or our 2 utilities rather. We have 1 enhanced power cell and 1 pocket processor. This is the card I was talking about in conjunction with increased durability that will give your character more health. 3 health to be exact. You can put this on any character. So unlike Energy Pack, you can't put this on. You can put Energy Pack only on Octone. I decided to tech this card instead because it's black and on color for what this deck wants to do, and it provides that +3 for any of your characters. And of course, utility slot. The utility slot is still the hardest upgrade to get to in the game, outside of Vaporize, ramming speed, crushing size, point defense, or not point defense, as a point targeting drone, whatever it's called, etc. A lot of those cards aren't even being played right now. So except reprocess. But with all the burn and everything right now, reprocess is in a weird spot, and a lot of times I don't even know, because burn is amplified. I didn't mind last format reprocessing an energy pack off of Prime, off of whoever, but it's a little different this format with the amplification of burn and things like that. So 1 enhanced power cell, and I found that I definitely needed more draw power, 1 more draw card outside of the scouting mission. And this card is definitely very solid. If you see this card early in mid-game, it can provide a lot of value, especially if your opponent doesn't get rid of it, to give you a lot more options to deal with your opponent's board. So when we talk about viability for this deck, one thing I definitely want to mention, once again, is this deck, obviously, again, it always had a good blue matchup, but now it's even more amplified now because like everybody's getting in for some guaranteed damage at some point. And stable cover is definitely one of the weaknesses of this deck, but you do have counter espionage to counteract that. Now, one other thing I want to say is this deck against aggro decks, so it's like me being another aggro deck in a sense, but I'm getting in again for that guaranteed damage I need to play against some of the best aggressive decks to see if this deck can even hang to be considered something that can be tiered, because if not, maybe I'll have to scale back on the so heavy black and play some more blues in the deck. Again, I do have a bluer version that plays handheld blasters and that plays checkpoints, so if you guys want to check that out, definitely go check that out because I have that built as well. Alright guys, and that's going to do it for this deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys definitely like this video, leave a like. Running through this deck strengths / weaknesses, we can talk about each intricate part of the deck, and I guess the most obvious one we can talk about is direct damage. This deck is very high on direct damage, so I definitely give this deck a 5 out of 5 for direct damage. In terms of aggressiveness, I actually give this deck about a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 because I'm worried about it again against orange decks, but orange decks they may be the majority, but they're not the only decks in the format. I think the more and more players play with blue decks, give inspiration to other players that used to play blue and go back to blue. Blue is not dead. Blue just needs to sincerely revamp its the way it plays. It can't just hide behind tough like it used to. It has to be secret actions are definitely one of the biggest things that will help blue stay in the game. So in terms of aggressiveness, again, I give this deck a 4 out of 5. Out of survivability, I would like to say this deck is definitely a 4.5 out of 5 in survivability. Again, I say that loosely because I haven't tested it against an orange deck, but at the same time, I mean, even Night Racer in an orange deck against another orange deck, she takes like 2 to 3 hits to still die, because a lot of times your opponent really doesn't invest a lot in her to attack her. And then also there are spots of blue in this deck, so your opponent can go for a really decent attack, and that one opportune offensive I flip on defense could actually leave me potentially out of the range of getting shot with direct damage on the next turn or whatever, because I flipped that additional blue. Or just in general, flipping that one extra blue that your opponent may or may not account for is like, man, I'm gonna attack this character and I hope he doesn't flip a blue, and you end up flipping an Energinax and you know, a scouting mission, whatever, and all of a sudden you have 4 defense. So it has some definite viability potentially against the field, and obviously against blue decks. Mostly that's where its biggest strength is. So survivability, like I said, I'll give it about a 4.5 out of 5. Now, in terms of competitiveness, I'm going to say this and be, as much as I love Octone, I'm going to give it a 3.5, only because, again, I don't know how it's going to do against orange decks. Now, I will say, I'm very proud of this deck, and I feel like I potentially cracked the code on all black decks. I know there's an all white deck, like the Mirage deck. I know there's an all green deck in terms of, like, Wolfwire decks, or decks that, like, Wolfwire Airstrike Patrol. I don't know if that's necessarily the best version to play of that deck now, but it makes sense, like, one of the easy go-tos for that deck. But just Airstrike Patrol in general play, like, way more greens than any other deck. So I consider that deck a green deck. And then we have our first black deck. So, I mean, I think Triptychon also is technically a black deck as well. But this is, like I said, I'm very proud of, because every time I play Octone, he just feels a lot better with the more black icon cards I play. So I definitely give this deck potentially a 3.5 out of 5 for a I put it in a high potential category of competitive play. So again, definitely try this deck out if you guys like the deck profile. Switch things up. Let me know what you guys liked and didn't like. For one thing, Paralyzo Box. I'm not playing Paralyzo Box in the deck because it's the same as Grenade Launcher. Having that 4 attack on my characters initially doesn't mean I get to scale up even higher than that, because I'm not playing, I'm barely playing any orange. So having the +4 is not as it's not necessarily better than having the +3 from our Artist Weapon Blade or Fusion Board and getting in for that pierce damage. So it is what it is with that. If you dislike this video, dislike the video, all good. And definitely subscribe to the channel to not miss any more content that's coming up as soon as they get posted. I have a lot of comp camps coming up. I have a deck profiles coming up. I have my Wave 1 character review coming up very soon, so be looking forward to that. Got a lot of content I'm trying to throw at you guys to keep you guys busy in these trying times. So on that note, I hope you guys are staying safe, and I hope everything is well with you all and all of your families. You guys know what it is. I'm going to head up out of here, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Y'all have a great day and or night whenever you're catching this video. This is your homie SDot, heading out. Peace.